All for One's Guide to a Peaceful Retirement. Written by ScottishSunshine and read for you by Eleanor Elizabeth. Chapter 24. Hospitals Can Be Torture. Summary. Izuku recovers in hospital. Izuku, age 6. Hisashi hates hospitals. He sighs as he leans forward in his chair. Izuku should not be lying unconscious in a hospital bed. Around this time, he should be begging for just 5 more minutes on the computer, or perhaps telling Hisashi about a new quirk that he saw on the news. A knock on the door brings Hisashi out of his musings, and he looks up as Kurogiri enters. "Sir." The warper greets him with a nod. He looks over at Izuku, and although he might be hard to read, Hisashi can see the worry. He kind of wonders how many baked goods they'll have to get through in the coming weeks. How is he? No serious injuries, he just won't wake up. Hisashi shrugs. They think his body went through some sort of quirk-related shock. Kurogiri nods in understanding. Hisashi supposes that the two of them probably understand better than most how painful it can be to overreach with your quirk. Although, "It's not your fault, sir," Kurogiri speaks, breaking Hisashi out of his spiraling thoughts. "I may not know the details, but I am sure that there was nothing you could have done to prevent this." "You don't know that," Hisashi sighs. "I should-haves won't make a difference now," Kurogiri shrugs. "Izuku will need you to be strong to recover from this. If you want to blame yourself, do it after he's safely tucked in his own bed." Hisashi can't help but laugh. "You really should know your place, Kurogiri." "Oh, I do, sir." The warper doesn't even look at him as he picks up the empty chair at the foot of Izuku's bed. Hisashi understands what he's planning and wordlessly stands up. "It's by your shoulder, making sure you know what Inko would say." Once there is sufficient space, Kurogiri opens a warp gate. The first thing through is Gigantomachia's head. "Is little Lord all right?" Hisashi manages a weak smile. "He will be. I need you to stay and protect the house, in case it's attacked. Understand, Gigantomachia?" "Yes, Lord," the giant mumbles, obviously unhappy, and it's strangely touching to see such devotion. "If anything happens, I'll protect him," Hisashi assures the man. Gigantomachia perks up at that and vanishes back through the warp gate. Then his arm emerges, carrying a large holdall. Kurogiri accepts it and promptly begins unpacking. "I thought Izuku might appreciate waking up to familiar surroundings," he explains to Hisashi, and suddenly Hisashi needs to sit back down, because sometimes he forgets that, no matter how it might seem, Izuku has so many people that love him. By the time visiting hours are over, the hospital room is a veritable shrine to All Might. Hisashi swallows down any distaste he might feel, brushes the hair off Izuku's face, and settles down for a long wait. When he first wakes up, Izuku thinks he must be at home in his bed. The whole kidnapping must have been a nightmare, he decides, as he pulls his All Might plush close. He's still a bit scared though, so he'll ask Papa if he can sleep in his bed. Izuku sits up and realizes this isn't his bedroom. In fact, he doesn't know where he is, and he isn't even wearing his own clothes. All that stops him from panicking is that Papa is sat in a chair next to his bed, snoring softly. But even so, it must mean that he hadn't been dreaming. Someone took him. Izuku promptly bursts into tears. Papa jolts awake, jumping to his feet and banging his knee on the bed frame. He looks around, and as soon as he sees Izuku reaching for him, Papa sits down on the bed. Izuku needs no further invitation and latches onto him with all his might. Izuku isn't sure how long he cries, but Papa doesn't protest. He just holds Izuku close and whispers how much he loves him. The tears have finally dried by the time a doctor steps by and makes sure Izuku is feeling better. Once she's left, Papa makes sure Izuku is comfortably propped against the pillows and sits down as close as he can, tightly grasping Izuku's hand. Izuku is kind of glad, because no one would be silly enough to try hurting him when Papa's right there. They sit in silence for a few minutes, until one of the nurses comes to bring them both breakfast. Izuku manages a smile at the sight of the stack of pancakes, and Hisashi grasps at the coffee like he's a dying man. But once they've finished eating, Izuku realizes he's done something really, really bad. He wishes he could go back in time, to before he even left the house that morning. Is it still the same day? Izuku is sure that it can't be the same day. It feels like at least a month has passed since he left for school. "Papa?" He speaks once the trays have been cleared away. "Yes, Izuku?" Papa smiles, and it's so warm, so full of love, that it just makes Izuku feel worse, because he can feel tucked away in his body, that quirk he took earlier. And now he's no longer in danger. It feels uncomfortable, a constant reminder that he took it from someone else. There's someone out there who doesn't have a quirk anymore because of him, and suddenly the fact that it was a villain sounds more like an excuse. He wonders if the police will let him just give it back, or if he'll have to go to jail. Izuku glances around, just in case the police are waiting to arrest him. He kinda doesn't want to admit it, but Papa might know what to do. So he leans close to Papa and whispers, "I did something bad." The smile slips from Papa's face, but he pulls Izuku closer, so close that Izuku can almost feel his heartbeat. "Well, whatever you did, you can tell me, Izuku. I promise I won't be mad." "Really?" Izuku sniffles. "Really," Papa confirms. Izuku takes a deep breath and tightens his grip on Papa's shirt, trying to leech every last bit of comfort he can. "I took someone's quirk." For just a second, Papa does not answer and Izuku almost panics. But Papa holds him close and doesn't shove him away, and doesn't call the police. Instead, he asks, "Was this someone the person who took you?" Izuku nods, and Papa presses a kiss to his head. "Listen to me, Izuku. You did nothing wrong. When grown-ups do bad things, and they try to hurt you, it's alright to use your quirk." He pauses for a minute and then asks, "Did you use the quirk you took?" "I don't know." "Because something very strange happened while we were looking for you. Suddenly, I was right next to you." Papa gently pushes Izuku back so he can see the smile on his face. "And if you did it, I'm really proud of you. You were scared, but you still found a way to get help." "Really?" Izuku asks, feeling better because if Papa said he did the right thing... "Really," Papa confirms. "No one is mad at you. The police will want to talk to you, but they'll just want to ask you a few questions, and if you tell them what you just said, they'll agree that you did the right thing." Izuku manages a smile and giggles when Papa ruffles his hair. "Now, young man, there are a lot of people who will want to know that you're alright." "Tenya! Midoriya texted an update! Shoto! Grab your coat!" Kurogiri is just pulling a batch of muffins from the oven when he hears his phone ping. Inko was right. Baking is surprisingly therapeutic. He almost drops the baking tray in his haste to get to the phone. Picking it up is almost impossible with the oven mitts, he learns quickly. But finally he opens the messages and laughs, giddy with relief. "Makia!" he calls out. "Izuku's woken up!" He's been with the Midoriyas long enough that he does not even bat an eyelid as the giant all but tumbles down the stairs. "Is little Lord all right?" Gigantomachia demands as he explodes into the kitchen. Gigantomachia may be many things, but quiet and subtle are not amongst them. "See for yourself," Kurogiri smiles as he passes the bodyguard his phone. Just in case, he warps some kitchen roll over because Gigantomachia is, when it comes to Izuku, a big softie. He idly wonders if Midoriya will mind if he sets it as his contact photo. It's rather hard to remember that the man is a retired supervillain when he's posing with a doting smile on his face, a grinning Izuku next to him. Chapter 25. Beware of policemen with truth quirks. Summary. Hazashi and Izuku have to give their statements. Unfortunately, the officer taking them is a young man named Tsukashi. Izuku, age 6. "It appears the warehouse was burnt to the ground," Tsukashi sighs, "and we've been unable to locate any of the villains involved. Are you sure you didn't see anything, Mr. Midoriya?" Hazashi barely resists the urge to whistle innocently. "I'm afraid when I saw Izuku was unconscious, I panicked. I picked him up and ran to get help, and I'd just exited the warehouse when it burst into flames. In hindsight, it was rather odd that I didn't encounter anyone." "Right," Tsukashi slowly nods. "Well, once the doctor decides he's up to it, we'll need to conduct an interview with Izuku." "Of course." Hazashi agrees and makes a mental note to coach Izuku on what to say. "If you'll excuse me." "We hope Izuku feels better soon." Surigami smiles as Hazashi stands and leaves the room. When he lets himself back into the hospital room with a cup of that sludge the administration seems to believe is coffee, Izuku is sitting propped up in bed, reading through Quirk Analysis Volume 1, chewing on the end of a pen. "Hey there." Hazashi smiles as he settles back into his chair. "How are you feeling?" "Tired." Izuku sighs and closes his notebook. bored. Then he perks up and Hisashi frowns because he knows perfectly well what's going through his head. No quirk experiments before you've been released, young man. But Papa, Izuku whines, I want to see how it works. However it works, it landed you in the hospital, Hisashi points out. Izuku pouts, but his father remains unmoved. He's faced down heroes, goddammit. A 6-year-old is nothing in comparison. If you insist, I can always take it off you and see how it works myself. Izuku opens his mouth to protest, but spots a warning in Hisashi's eyes. With a groan, he collapses back into the pillows. Besides, Kurogiri promised he'd come and visit soon. With biscuits? Izuku perks up. Hisashi laughs at the hopeful gleam in his son's eyes. I'm sure he's not coming empty-handed. Izuku nods, bright eyes with another laugh. Hisashi picks up his son's notebook. Muffins! Izuku cheers as soon as Kurogiri steps into the room. It's good to see you too, the warper replies, calmly setting the plastic box down on the bedside table. Immediately, Izuku snatches a muffin and bites into it. How is Gigantomachia? Hisashi asks with a sigh. He hopes nothing else goes wrong. He does not know how he'd explain half of Tokyo being destroyed because someone decided to try a spot of burglary. Oh, fine, Kurogiri nods, his eyes crinkling in that odd way that means he's smiling. I mentioned you said the house could do with a spring clean. Hisashi laughs. Remind me to buy you those pans you've had your eye on. Of course, sir, Kurogiri nods. He would like to see Izuku as soon as possible. Can he, Papa? Izuku asks eagerly. Please? Well, the doctor does think you're up to receiving visitors, Hisashi admits, and then hastily adds, but you do not leave that bed, and the minute you're tired, tell me. Yes, Papa. Izuku salutes with his half-eaten muffin, and, not for the first time, Hisashi wishes he'd brought a camera. Very well then. Kurogiri makes sure the door is closed, then, with a mischievous twinkle in his eye and a dramatic flourish, announces, One warp gate to the living room, coming up. Surprisingly, the first thing through is not Gigantomachia. In fact, it is 2 small, familiar figures, both with green hair. Izuku! Shoto exclaims as he clambers onto the bed. Are you all right? Tenya asks. He's only standing by the foot of the bed, but Hisashi can see the tension bleeding from his shoulders. Poor kid. Izuku vanished right in front of him. Hisashi hands him a muffin in a silent demonstration of solidarity. It's a lot! Gigantomachia wails as he squeezes through the gate. No hugs! Hisashi hurriedly commands him, and the giant nods morosely and takes up a spot at the foot of the bed like an oversized guard dog. Oh, thank goodness! Rei Yukiyama sniffs as she steps through the gate. She hurries over to kiss Izuku on the forehead and give him a hug, and then joins Gigantomachia, wordlessly offering the box of tissue she brought to the giant. Hisashi feels strangely touched when he realizes she's also dyed her hair green, and makes a mental note to mention that it looks better than the usual black. It would also help their story that she's related to Inko. Although the room is already crowded, Kurogiri does not immediately close the warp gate. Hisashi is about to ask about it when one last final person steps through. I brought coffee! Katsumi Ida announces, brandishing a large thermos. Apparently, being wonderful is genetic. Hisashi reflects as he gratefully accepts a cup. And then this new hero showed up, and his name is... It's Edgeshot, and he can make himself really thin. Oh yeah, Shoto nods. He's the one that looks like a ninja, right? I saw him on the news last week. Izuku opens his mouth to answer, but is interrupted by a knock at the door. Afternoon, Izuku, the nurse smiles as she opens the door, then pauses when she sees all the people inside. There's a policeman that would like to ask you a few questions. We should probably get going, Auntie Rei sighs as she stands up. She quickly hurries over to kiss Izuku and give him another cuddle, and Izuku makes sure to enjoy it. Auntie Rei gives the second best cuddles. Tenya, you'll be sleeping over at our place tonight, remember? Yes, Tenya nods, although he doesn't look particularly happy. It makes Izuku feel better because both of his friends were quite clear that a sleepover just isn't the same without him. It's also nice because apparently everyone at Eden is working really hard to find the villains that took him, although Izuku feels a bit sorry for them. Auntie Katsumi can be really scary. If he's not been released, you can come round tomorrow morning, Papa assures them. Kurogiri can come pick you up after breakfast. I need to go too. Kurogiri winces as he checks his phone. Apparently the Pussycats found out about the kidnapping and caught the first train from Hokkaido. I texted them that everything is alright, but Well, I'd still like to be there when they get in. Of course, Papa laughs. If they want, they can probably come visit sometime tomorrow. Yes, yes, yes! Izuku beams. It makes him feel all warm inside to know that so many people were worried about him. Oh, Shoto, you haven't met them, but they're really awesome rescue heroes and you can tell him all about them tomorrow. Papa interrupts him with a smile. You need to talk to the policeman, remember? It's kind of sad saying goodbye to Shoto and Tenya, even though they'll see each other tomorrow. The policeman makes a rather weird face when Kurogiri opens a warp gate and they all vanish through it, and Makia settles down at the foot of the bed and curls up like a big dog. The policeman is still making a strange face as he sits down. Izuku feels a little unsure, but he pulls his All Might plush close and decides he can just pretend he's a hero giving his report to the police, and he can see Papa just over the policeman's shoulder, so he doesn't have to be scared. All right, Izuku. The policeman smiles and pulls out a notebook and a recorder. My name is Naomasa Tsukashi, and I need to ask you a few questions. Is that all right? Do I need a lawyer? Izuku asks, and realizes maybe the policeman won't be very happy that he took someone's quirk. The policeman makes another strange face, and Papa snickers behind his back. Izuku wasn't sure what's so funny, but he smiles. No, you don't need a lawyer. Tsukashi shakes his head. You're not in any trouble, I just need to ask you a few questions about the people who took you. Oh, okay, Izuku nods. Do you know how many people there were? At least... Izuku frowns down at his fingers and tries to figure it out, counting in his mind. 3. That many? The policeman looks impressed. You must have been really scared. A bit, Izuku admits quietly, but then adds, but when I grow up, I'm going to be a hero, so it was good practice. A future hero? Tsukashi chuckles. Well then, I look forward to working together. Izuku beams. Do you know what the people who took you looked like? No, Izuku shakes his head. They put something on my head. Then something occurs to him and he frowns. Why don't you ask the villain you caught? We didn't catch anyone. The policeman frowns. When we arrived, there was no one there. Really? Izuku pulls the plush closer. The villains are still out there, and at least one of them has to be really, really mad at him. Not even the one I hurt. You hurt one of them? With my quirk, Izuku admits quietly. He sniffs and wipes at his eyes. I know it's naughty, but I was scared and I wanted to go home. And Papa just said that it was all right. You're not in any trouble, Tsukashi assures him with a smile. I'm actually impressed. It sounds like you'll be a really good hero. You must have been very smart to think to use your quirk. It's attraction, Papa informs him. Like his mother, he can attract small objects. The policeman frowns and pauses, but just as Izuku's starting to worry, he shakes his head and stands up. Well, that's all for now. He smiles, but there's something off about it. I'll call if we need anything else, and Izuku, you were really brave. I have no doubt that you'll be an incredible hero one day. Izuku smiles at that, and Papa sees the policeman to the door. Then, once he's gone, he comes back and Izuku moves over to make space for him and Papa on the bed. Papa, tell me a story. There's something off about that boy, and his quirk.